In this video, I want to talk about the two aspects of trauma. And when I talk about aspects, I'm talking about time aspects, really. And I'll go into that in a moment. But of course, in memory reconsolidation work, what we're really looking to do is to try and generate what we call mismatch experiences. Because it's only in that mismatch can the brain's old pathway containing the trauma be opened up. And then with a repeat of those mismatch experiences, so you've got the old response and the new mismatch experience, and just kind of beating those together like a game of conkers is what actually does the rewrite. Now, the important thing about this is that when we talk about mismatch experiences, we're talking about mismatches that are actually relevant. So, for instance, if a person has a belief that all hats are top hats, so this is their belief that all hats look like that, then they go out into the park and lo and behold, they see a different kind of hat. Then of course that's a mismatch. But if all hats are top hats, and I know this is a silly example, but if all hats are top hats, has nothing to do with the prediction, the core prediction that is keeping hold of their problem in life today that they've come to see you about in therapy, then it's an irrelevant mismatch. And so the relevant mismatches, we're trying to find the kind of core predictions that's driving the problem. And you'll find those in a few places, either in their beliefs, and by that also encompasses decisions that were made at the time, meaning that they ascribe to what happened, unmet needs, and then feelings, which can be a whole host of things, but very typically will be some sort of autonomic nervous system activation, like fight or flight feelings or shutdown feelings, and emotional responses as well. And so we can find mismatches in any of these things. And I write about this in some of the blogs on the website. In fact, I remember this using the acronym BUNFIGHT. And of course, that bit's not really relevant. It just helps me to remember B for beliefs, UN for unmet needs, and F for feelings. But what I want to draw your attention to, especially if you're doing imaginal work, but even if you're not, is that what I find with my clients is that timeline-wise, there are actually two aspects to the trauma. And this might help you just find out where the mismatches live, if you like, not just in terms of categories, but in terms of what the client went through. So the trauma, like I say, has two aspects. The first aspect is the event itself. And so there will be things within the event itself that were traumatic and will have led to some sort of belief, may have led to some sort of decision, and there may be some meaning making around the fact that this event actually occurred. There will be some unmet needs in that event that could maybe be reimagined so those needs are met. And of course, there'll be a lot of feelings, emotional content, and in particular, those autonomic nervous system responses as well, where the body is firing up. So that's the first aspect, the event itself. But I want to just bring to your attention that there's a second aspect to trauma, and that is the aftermath. So given that the event itself happened, what then goes on after the event itself for the client? Are they looked after? Are their needs taken care of? Are they soothed? Are they reassured? And so in the aftermath, there is also a place where beliefs, decisions, and meaning can be made. In the aftermath, there are very often unmet needs and cravings that still live on to this day, often around validation and care, in fact, an acknowledgement that it happened rather than a denial of the event itself. And there can be emotional feelings and autonomic nervous system responses as well. So maybe shut down, a sense of giving up, nobody cares kind of thing. Or maybe a sense of agitation around this problem that isn't solving itself. And where do I actually go with all of these feelings that I have? And so it's an important noticing that trauma is not just in the event, but is in the aftermath as well. And especially if we think of that definition, I can't remember whose definition it is now, that sense of, trauma is where we got too much of something that we didn't want and not enough of the thing that we actually did need. And that's where things can get traumatic for us. You will find those characteristics not only in the event itself, which is often the focus, but very importantly too in the aftermath. Given that this happened, what level of care did the person get? How alone did they feel with it? Were they able to share it with someone? Did they carry it themselves? What kind of beliefs, decisions, and meaning did they make about the lack of validation that came in the aftermath, the isolation that may have came in the aftermath? What are those unmet needs that still live on today? And what are the feelings and the emotional responses? And so when we're looking for mismatch, we can look not only in terms of these places, like these categories, and that can help us out, but we're actually looking in these timelines as well. First, in terms of the event itself, and secondly, what happened in the aftermath that might have also been either too much or not enough.